27 years ago today, Pokémon Red and Blue released for the first time in Japan for the Nintendo Game Boy. That means today is Pokémon Day. Pokémon means a lot to me, whether it was watching the anime on Cartoon Network after school when I was a kid with my older brother, Battle Frontier specifically, right before Shaolin Showdown, or playing Red, Blue, and Yellow on the hand-me-down Game Boy Advance SPs we got from our cousins, or playing Pokémon Coliseum as my first real Pokémon game, or playing the copy of Pokémon Diamond my dad got me from the big flea market up north, or playing Pokémon White again just recently. Pokemon is an escape for me that I can't really say anything else can equal. I don't know what it is about the concept of Pokemon that makes it so appealing. I don't know what it is that still gives me such awesome feelings whenever I see a new one to catch in a game. I don't know what it is that makes it so easy to come back to. I just don't know, and to an extent, I think that's part of the appeal. Regardless how mediocre a new Pokemon game ends up being, the experience still ends up being something to remember. I've been outspoken about my disdain for the Pokemon community online for various reasons, most notably starting during the release cycle of Pokemon Sword and Shield. The community has, for all intents and purposes, become unbearable to be around, but I also can't help but love it because for every person in the community who tries to tear Game Freak or the Pokemon Company down, there's another who makes it an incredible place to be. People like Wolf Glick, for example, who make the competitive side of Pokemon so easy to get into. Or in my case, people like Paige, who was my best friend through a lot of middle school and early into high school, who I used to play competitively with since my parents would never take me to official events around Michigan. People like Sylvia and that one guy who joined me frequently whenever I stream Nuzlocke, who help relieve some of the more tedious parts of the games. People like Aiden, who are willing to indulge me in my stupid ideas about Pokemon, like a one-off rematch where they fought me using a Hoppip while I used Skrelp. People like Amber, who I've been playing Scarlet and Violet with in semi-frequent multiplayer sessions since release. I helped her find her first shiny Pokemon, I helped her EV train her first Pokemon. We beat the Charizard and Greninja raids together. People like all of them help remind me consistently that while I may not want to associate with the larger part of the Pokemon community for their overwhelming negativity and unacceptable behavior towards the developers of the games, it's not all bad. Pokemon has been a vehicle for me to build friendships that I would not have otherwise. I wouldn't be friends with Aiden, who I've known since second grade, without Pokemon. I wouldn't know a good chunk of Reset to the extent I do without Pokemon. Hell, I wouldn't even make Let's Plays without Pokemon, and those are quite literally my favorite thing to make. I'd never have discovered Leroy, who then led me to check Conroy, who inspired me to finally make Let's Plays of my own. The Pokemon series has influenced my life to an extent that I truly cannot say for any other franchise in the world. It's always been something I can come back to, and for that I just need to say, thank you, Game Freak, for everything. Yes, even the gross-looking trees, thank you for those too. Here's to another 27 years. How were you introduced to Pokemon?
So, my first introduction to Pokemon was the Black and White anime.
Oh.
And, yeah, I always say it's a miracle I got into this series, because my first introduction was the Black and White anime. My first game was Coliseum.
Literally me too. Not the Black and White anime, but Coliseum was my first Pokemon game.
A family friend had Coliseum, and he brought it over one day, and I tried it. Could not get far at all, because I was dumb and stupid, but also the game's pretty tough. I don't think I made it to Mirror B, but the game wasn't mine, so I couldn't continue it. A few months later, I got Pokemon X for my birthday, because a friend had Pokemon Y, and I thought I might as well get it. It took me a while to finish it, because I was really bad at Pokemon. Still am.
So I was introduced to Pokemon from my, actually it was from my preschool. I was still trying to, part of it was I was still trying to learn how to read, and I would play video games on my NES and read some guides from, and that was part of how, obviously I would read the other books too, but really specifically I had this intersection with reading and video games that I liked a lot. Preschool, all the kids were playing Pokemon Diamond on the DS. It was a Link play, just because it was local wireless, and it was a dialogue-heavy game. It was a game with a lot of words in it. I got it from Target, and it was pretty single-minded fixation from there on.
You know the stereotype that kids get one of two choices when they're growing up. They either have a stable family or play Wii Sports. I was the other kind of kid where I didn't really have a stable family, so as a result of that, I got my government-issued DS with my normal stereotypical games, and I got a government-issued copy of Pokémon Black. I loved that thing to death, and it is the biggest tragedy and biggest regret in my life that I lost it. But I was introduced to the game back in 2011, and since then I have been playing consistently. I've bought every single game Pokemon has had since 2011. I love this franchise probably more than whatever firstborn child I'm going to have, so...
So I got a DS with Dragon Quest and Pokemon Pearl. I didn't really pay attention to the commercials at the time, so it was like...
Yeah.
I just saw it and it's like, oh hey, it's that fun show on TV, but also like interesting looking box art.
Especially with Pearl, you got to meet this dragon.
Shut up.
I think I saw the anime on TV when I was really young.
You remember what region?
It was Kanto. It was like the first like season of the anime. I didn't like see too much of it, but I found out that there were games, and I was like, Mother, I require.
My dad, I think, had Pokemon Diamond in like 2006, and I played it for 5 minutes, and I liked it.
My first introduction to the games themselves was Sapphire, and not like the remakes, even though that would have worked with the timing, despite the fact that those were coming out around that time. My introduction was the original Sapphire, not in the advanced, on a fucking Game Boy Micro. The two ways that it might have been introduced to the series as a whole with the anime and that handbook, and the way that I was introduced to the games, which is the original Sapphire, in a time where ORAS did in fact exist, or at least was about to.
So what was your first Pokemon game? I don't mean this really in a literal sense, I mean this more in like a what is the first Pokemon game that like left an impression on you?
Yeah, Pokemon X. I played it for so long. I was like really guilty of resetting save files at the time. A lot of Pokemon I still remember. I had an Azumarill, and I was like floored by how strong Azumarill was because it has pure power.
Huge power.
Huge power. Pure power is that's the one
It's
that
the
only
exact
Medicham
same
has,
ability,
right?
but
Yeah, pure power is the one only Medicham has, I think.
Yeah.
It had huge power. I was like, wow, this thing does so much damage. I remember beating the Elite Four with like an electrode that I got like 5 minutes ago and didn't train at all. Oh, it took me so many attempts though. The Dragon type one especially. I just couldn't beat because I was stupid.
So the first Pokemon game that left a super big impression on me, I want to say it was probably Pokemon Emerald. I'd already been a fan of like older gen consoles at the time. Like I had owned a GameCube, NES. I'd been familiar with older consoles, but I didn't know about like different generations of handhelds. I just knew that the bottom of my DS had this funny slot in it, you know, that you could
Yeah.
put something presumably.
With the little thing to cover it up that every kid lost.
So one day, essentially, I decided I want to look for games at a GameStop, and so I bring the game. So I go to the GameStop, and I bring my DS, and I show them the bottom of my DS, and they're like, "What games is this?" And they're like, "That's a Game Boy. That's for Game Boy Advance games." And I said, "What's a Game Boy Advance?" And they said, "You can play games like Tetris 2 and Mario Kart Super Circuit on it."
Tetris 2 is a Game Boy game, you can't play that on DS.
Wow, I want to play a Game Boy Advance. And they said, "Okay, well, we've got a couple games over here." And they had a Pokemon game. They had Pokemon Emerald. And I was like, "Wow!" I got the game, and I fucked around with the other person's save file for a little bit before restarting it. But immediately I was like, "This is sort of a different vibe."
It is.
I can tell because like the Diamond and Pearl and Platinum were these games with like far-reaching consequences in their plot, but like the thing I thought the most about Emerald was more about the fact that like, oh yeah, it's this kid and mom moving in all on their own, even their dad's supposedly a gym leader, and playing through the whole game, I can't help but think like, oh man, your dad really isn't around. Like that like specific, even though they don't really go into it a ton in the game, from what I remember, I just remember that one detail being like, oh okay. That plus like also probably the smaller screen and the mapping had something to do with it, but I was like, this feels like a more personal kind of homey game on this older console, and it felt like, and just because I also grew up in the 2000s where like kids were still learning about different family dynamics and the fact that a mommy and a daddy don't have to be with each other all the time. Even though it wasn't a big deal, it just made me, with that context I had growing up, it just made me think about it more and think about how in a lot of these older games you get more personal themes like this, and I like they felt more personal, and it felt more like movies where you where you inject a lot of humanity into the art form rather than putting all of your emphasis on the conflict being this like world-spanning thing, I guess.
Yeah, I never really thought about like Norman being like distant like that, but now that I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, older games do like that more often. Like Mother 1 and Earthbound, where like your dad exists, but you can only call him.
Yeah, and that's that's part of why I liked Earthbound so much, because that's like an essential detail of the game that he toy harps on a lot.
The first one obviously was Black and White, but I'll go and talk about another game called Black 2 and White 2. So Black 2 and White 2 was the actual games that like I got like an impression in, and this was starting to like put me in towards the series, and just the character development and the like all the character designs and stuff is very nice to me. And I remember specifically, this was in Black and White, but like it really reminisced with me in Black 2 and White 2. Competitive Pokemon was starting to become a thing, like
yes,
a huge thing.
I don't even like Black 2 and White 2, and I remember competitive being interested in me for the first time in those games.
And I was, oh my god, I don't want to age myself here, but I was very young, like I could probably still faceplant while riding a bike young, so I was very into it, was trying to figure out how to IV train and whatever, and my goal, for some reason, was to go to Worlds with an Eevee on my team before 2017 when Evo Boost was a thing, with Ice Beam. I don't know if you know your Pokemon, but Eevee can't learn Ice Beam.
Yeah, it can't.
Don't ask me. I have two brain cells on a singular bicycle right now, and they're trying to pedal with each other. It can't take much more.
It was literally Pearl, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver that my parents surprised me with. And then my neighbors happened to have a Game Boy Advance with red, blue, and yellow on it. And then I played through every other generation since.
For me, the answer is the same both ways. I started with Gen 1. I got Pokemon Blue. My brothers and I all got copies, and we were like playing alongside each other and like made it like a little competition to see like who could catch the most new things and all that. It was really cool. It was really fun. It was when I was little and like I couldn't comprehend the fact that they're bad, and I was just like, wow, look, little creatures, I want to give them a hug.
That's why I love Pokemon so much now. It's like there's creatures.
Oh, Platinum 100%. Oh my god, I could go on a fucking tangent with this one.
Go for it.
You're gonna have to stop me. Oh, okay. I think this was after meeting you, like the same year that we met. I was like, Itch, I want a DS, because I want a Pokemon game or something. And I'm like, okay, parents, can I have a DS for Christmas? Yeah, so they got me a DS, but my dad saw it and was like, hey, it's pink! He's not gonna want this. He's not gonna want a pink DS. So he spends a bunch of time painting it blue. It's like no offense to my dad, but it was like the crustiest DS ever. There's paint chipping off of it, like, for a while.
If you paint it was a DS Lite, right?
Yeah, it was a DS Lite.
So it has like a nice glossy finish, and then you just paint over it.
Yeah, he took the case, painted over it, and then just reassembled it. And then I was like, "Hey, Dad, I can't tell what the buttons are." Well, I didn't know which game I wanted yet, so like so after I got the DS, my dad was like, "Hey, we're gonna go to Target, and you can get a Pokemon game because that's what you wanted." I'm like, "Okay," and I was like, "Well, my dad has Heart Gold, maybe I should get that," but they were out, and I was like, "Okay, well, Platinum sounds cool," and now that I always think back to this, like, I'm really glad that Heart Gold was sold out because Platinum is, like, to this day still my favorite.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad that I started with Platinum because it's like, I think it was perfect for me at the time.
Either Sun and Moon or Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. More likely the Ultra games. Ultra Necrozma is my favorite legendary, and I think that's why, because literally just nostalgia.
Yeah.
I have more nostalgia for Necrozma than I do Kyogre, which is Alpha first of all, but also, like, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon had an impact on me, even if I don't think they're good now.
There's over 1,000 Pokemon now. So what's your favorite?
It's Meowstic. Meowstic female specifically, but I love them both.
Yeah.
Very simple reason why. I like cats. I like cats that are pissed off all the time, like female Meowstic is.
Oh, my favorite Pokemon of all time is Blossom. Just immediately, I love her. I like a lot of the more femme Pokemon, and I love grass types. I like her little flowery dancer design. It's so cute.
It is.
Gastrodon. Sorry, was I supposed to stutter?
You know the question. It's what's your favorite
Gastrodon.
Pokemon? It's Gastrodon.
Tier list, Bulbasaur's in there. She wants like right number 2. Armaldo, Breloom, Whimsicott. But I gotta give it to my slimy boy.
Yeah.
Love him.
I get it to an extent. It's not my favorite. I prefer other water ground types, but it's a good one.
It's specifically this form of it, though. Specifically this form.
Yeah, the colors are definitely better on the blue one.
I don't have a favorite. I have several.
Well, list some of them then.
Infernape, Lucario, again, tracks.
It's like I'm asking this question to everyone because it feels like it would be illegal not to now that there's over 1,000 of them. But also now that it's over 1,000 of them, it's a really hard question.
Yeah. Like, you could almost break it down by, like, favorite starter, favorite wild, favorite legendary, favorite roaming.
I love Sylveon and Delphox so much.
I like Delphox because it's a witch. I like Sylveon because I'm trans and it's against the law for me
That,
not to.
exactly. Mood. And it's really funny because, like, when Gen 6 came out, the gender crisis was, like, purely subconscious.
Yeah, for me too.
But I saw Sylveon, I was like, that's my goat. That's my little dude.
Pokemon single-handedly led like all sorts of tweens into like self-discovery when they made Sylveon.
My favorite Pokemon used to be Vaporeon, and then some losers, right, were like, hey, what if we, like, destroy millions of people's lives? No, so Vaporeon used to be my favorite. As of right now, probably Lucario still. You know, Lucario used to be like my whole entire online persona. It was crazy.
Thousands of
Delphox.
these guys.
Any other favorites? Zoroark, obviously, the Gotham username. Is it a cop-out to say Sandslash is probably taking
No.
a third at the moment?
Not at all. Why would that be a cop-out?
I don't know, because, like, yesterday we had an entire conversation about Sandslash.
Okay, that doesn't like invalidate your liking of Sandslash. What does Pokemon mean to you?
I guess it's like something I can just like play to relax. Like it's something I've been playing for a long time. No matter the quality of the game, I could be playing like Generation 2 or something, and I could still have fun. Because like the games are so simple, and like I don't have to think much unless I'm like doing a Nuzlocke. I don't have to think much, and it's just like a great like stress relief. It's like feeling like a kid again, you know? Like I have opinions on some games in this series. Very strong about Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I just want to say that right now. But like even my least favorite, those games, They're still Pokemon, and like I can't call them terrible. They're still fun.
I would say Pokemon is 1,000,000%, and like a lot of the media I consumed with it is really about like growing up. Even though like everything is there and your entire life is out there, growing up and not fully understanding what's going on, but like finding good ways to cope with it. I mean, the main mechanic is evolution, obviously, and there's a lot of stock that goes into the mystery of Pokemon. But like, there's the choice to have your character to like a teenager, like a young teenager, and that was nice just because like even though I never really liked Ash specifically, I liked that there was a 10-year-old on TV when I was 10. That was something I always kind of resonated with unconsciously, but then I wound up seeing Detective Pikachu, which is a movie I really like. I saw it when it came out, so I was a bit old. I think I was 17 or 18 at that point, and I was a bit older, and I was already, by some people's metrics, too old to probably be playing Pokemon. But the whole movie is about like someone who grew away from Pokemon, and how it's basically like they grew out of and grew disillusioned about because of the adult world and how hard it is being an adult. And I was like, wow, this was something that was clearly written by someone at least with a similar relationship as me to Pokemon, just because it really encapsulated all this feeling of like growing up is hard, and even when you're sort of mostly grown up, it's still really hard to understand most of what's happening to you and around you. But you aren't really without new ways to protect yourself against a really hurtful world. Just because you've always got something to learn, some way to just be better or make things better than they currently are.
Pokemon's a community that I have just been flowing in and out of, and it's been basically like it's always been there for me. I've played it when I was in 4th grade, 5th grade. I remember being hyped about it for Pokemon X and Y, then Omega Ruby, then Sun and Moon. All of my good memories with my friends always involved Pokemon in some way. Like, I remember I bonded over a crush I had back in 7th grade because we were both excited about Pokemon Sun and Moon. And then again, when I was meeting some of my friends like you, we bonded over Pokemon and that whole kind of thing.
That motherfucking Buffalo and Ninetales, I remember. Ugh.
And I still have her.
Yeah, I still have mine that you traded me.
But I think this is the funnier story to come out of what Pokemon means to me. But so my junior prom was back in 2019. And I had a boot on my leg, and this is going to be important later. So during my junior prom, we were going to be at the convention center on the top floor. The floor below it was going to be one of the regionals for Pokemon that I was going to attend the next day until we were getting to the venue and setting up, and they were like, oh no. So they had to block off the escalators to make sure none of the kids could get down and like fool around and that whole kind of thing. Except they forgot one little small thing. The person they had to worry about the most about going down there was me, and I had elevator access. So as soon as everything started to die down and whatever, I went to the elevator. The principal looked at me, went, what are you doing? I went, bye. And just doors closed, went all the way down, and I walked up in there and I played like the test rounds on the tournament in a full-on prom dress, with my hair all done, with my makeup and everything. And I remember I got such funny stares, but when I talked to them like, hey, this is what's going on the top floor, it was like oh, and it was just such a cool moment, I guess, that we all just kind of went, yeah, Pokemon takes priority. Don't need to go to a junior prom. It's not like it's going to be the only prom you'll ever have because you have a pandemic that's going to inevitably come in the next year. No, totally not. I have a photo actually. Where is my phone? So I had a photo of me posing in front of the Bulbasaur thing. I asked one of the attendants to do it, and she's like, this is what you want your prom photo to be? I went, yeah. And she's like, why? And I'm like, I'm asking you to take a photo, not be my therapist.
It means a lot to me, because like without it, like you and I wouldn't have really been able to bond at all. And Pokemon genuinely got me through a lot of tough times. And I mean, it was only Scarlet and Violet that like that's the first time I've completed a Pokemon game, and it was for a shiny of all things. Being able to genuinely just go through an entire world of Pokemon with other people, that should just be the default from now on.
Yeah, I really wasn't expecting to enjoy the simultaneous multiplayer stuff as much as I have, but now that I've been playing it that way, like every couple weeks or so, like it really manages to keep the game fresher than it's been able to be for a lot of past generations.
I still remember when I first got to the Championship League and we did our like mock rival battle.
Yeah, because Nomona doesn't battle you until after.
Like it's little moments like that of like that's a moment that just couldn't happen in any other Pokemon game, and it was also just like a great bonding experience as friends.
That's a good question, because like it's been like so much to me. It's been like such an integrated part of my life since I was a child that like it's a combination of being like very dear and precious memories, while also being like kind of the main link I have back to that like childlike wonder that I had when I was 4, right?
Yeah.
Like there are no other games that make me just like feel like a kid again, aside from Pokemon.
I don't even know what to say, honestly. Pokemon was basically my entire life when I was younger, and today I just remember all of it. And sometimes I just dump a lot of information on people. It's like genuinely like part of my life at this point. Like as goofy as that sounds, like it pretty much made me who I am as a person today. I mean, like being into Pokemon as a kid got me into Flipnote Hatena because I saw a bunch of people animating Pokemon in that, which got me really into like animation and drawing, and also into music in some like ways too. So it like really kind of did make me who I am. I guess that's what it is to me.
It's one of those series, like other than probably Sonic, that's had the biggest impact on me. I'd say especially recently. With PLA and Scarlet and Violet especially, I've been trapped in this hyperfixation more than ever before, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel other than enough Ultra Necrozma that's gonna let me out of here. And I'm not getting past that stuff. Prism Light Dragon Muckoffer.
For everything that Pokemon means to not just me, not just my friends, but all of us, thank you, sincerely, to the developers, artists, composers, and everyone else at Game Freak who gave life to this series that has truly changed mine and many, many others' lives. I couldn't imagine my life without Pokemon, and I hope I don't have to for the foreseeable future.
Thank you, Game Freak.
For this segment, I think I received this note here that says, give a thanks to the Game Freak devs or I will kill your dog.
He will not!
I would like to issue some personal thanks to the developing staff at Game Freak responsible for a lot of the games and a lot of the culture I wound up absorbing over the years, including the talents of Satoru Iwata, Shigeki Morimoto, Juichi Matsuda, strong consultants, devs, and especially Morimoto, who is responsible for Heart Gold and Soul Silver, one of the best remakes of all time. Someone who taught me a way that a past property could be enriched in a way that feels really familiar and reliable for fans, but also like feels like a refreshing experience for players. There's a lot of vision in that game, and a lot of vision, I think, as much as I tend to make fun of Pokemon and its self-derivativeness nowadays, I have nothing but admiration for what it represents, and what it represents to me as a theme throughout my life. So, many thanks, and I hope that my pitch for Pokemon Uranium 3 gets approved. Nintendo hasn't sent me back any letters. Please give me a developing job.
Thank you, Game Freak, for letting me meet my friends, to have something in common I can talk to everybody with, for actually giving me a social life when I never really had one. And also, in all seriousness, just for the whole community that was made through the creation of these two little dumb games that they didn't really think was gonna get far back in 1998.
Thank you, Game Freak.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's so strange to me. I feel like Pokemon fans are in a really weird space because they're always expecting more than they're realistically going to get.
Yeah.
And we could sit here and harp on the fact that, oh, Gen 9 could look so much better. But like at the end of the day, Scarlet and Violet's probably the most fun I've had just playing Pokemon.
Yeah. Like there's things I'd change about Scarlet and Violet, but it's still an improvement.
It's an incredible like experience too, and like it's the first time again since I was a kid that it really fully captured that magic for me. So yeah, thank you, Game Freak.
Thank you, Game Freak. You should put even less Pokemon in the next one.
Thank you, Game Freak. There, I circled back to it.
Eventually you got there.
Eventually. The second I remembered.